Hey, how's it going? Welcome back to the channel. Today we are talking about Masters of the Universe on what it's going to be the last episode of season 1 of our show. Let's talk about it. Hello and welcome back. Here we talk about everything in TV series, especially if it has to do with the geek and pop culture. And today we have a very special review. First and foremost, I'd like to thank Joel Duckelmeyer over there at the Nerdy for giving me the chance to even review this a month ago. I've been sitting on this for a month, so it's been hard not to talk about it, but I didn't want to spoil it for anyone, and you have to watch this for yourself. So in order for me not to get ahead of myself, let's start from the beginning. And by the way, there's a written review of this very video, and I'm going to put the link down below. It's going to be on the Illuminati's website, and it's the review that I wrote, basically the script of my video. So if you want to read it, there it is. There are very few shows that define generations, and I think Masters of the Universe is one of them. I mean, He-Man and Skeletor, they were everywhere in the 80s. If you're a child of the 80s, or I guess of the 70s, and you grew up in the 80s, you know what I'm talking about. And even if you're a child of the 80s and you grew up in the early 90s, even mid 90s, then you know what I'm saying. Masters of the Universe was very popular. The season started in the 1980s and went all the way up to 1988, and then in 87 they had a live action movie. Toys everywhere.
Now you can imagine all the power in the universe. The Masters of the Universe collection. 23 pieces, each sold separately. There's He-Man and these heroic action figures. Skeletor and the Warriors of Evil.
So there's nothing here that should surprise you about the magnitude of this TV series. A few months ago, the internet erupted when Kevin Smith announced that in a collaboration with Netflix and Mattel, that he was going to do a sequel to the original Masters of the Universe TV series. Yes, the one from the 80s. However, this TV series has one major difference, that Prince Adam / He-Man is not the main character of this journey. It's actually Teela's journey instead, and Teela is played by Sarah Michelle Gellar. And because the show is centered around Teela, the title ties right into a story. Masters of the Universe Revelations is the revelation about Teela and the revelation about everything going on around her that has to do with Prince Adam, that has to do with He-Man and her origins. This is also a series to explain Teela's origins more or less. We do get some of that. Once you start watching the show, the first thing you're going to notice is how bright everything is. The first thing you're going to notice is how bright and how just updated everything looks and how everything is compared to the 80s version. Obviously, it's been 30 years. So, of course, things are going to look newer and updated, but it just looks so good. The foliage, the colors, everything just pops right out of the screen, and it captivates you from the moment you start watching. Now, if you've seen a majority of my reviews, I really don't do spoiler-free reviews. I do talk about spoilers more or less. And there's a big spoiler coming up, especially right in the beginning of the first episode. So if you don't want to be spoiled, watch the show and then come back and watch this video. You've been warned. So in the very first few minutes, we get caught up with the rest of the crew and the gang and everybody. He-Man, Prince Adam, Teela, everybody's there, and you get to see Teela become Man-at-Arms finally. Her father is very proud of her, and there's this whole ceremony. Adam is very proud of her, and kind of starts giving you a hint that this is, like I said, Teela's journey. But of course, this is Masters of the Universe, and it would not be Masters of the Universe without Skeletor. So that's when he comes in, and just everything just kind of goes downhill from that moment on. Skeletor always had his eyes on Castle Grayskull, but here his motives are a little bit different. He's just tired of trying to take Castle Grayskull. What he wants to do instead is just destroy Eternia. He wants to destroy the orb, that gives life to everything in Eternia and everything in the universe. He wants it gone. So a battle breaks out between He-Man and Skeletor, and what becomes just this huge battle in terms of what's happening next. And here comes a big spoiler. In this battle, Prince Adam has to turn into He-Man. He has to get the sword and say the words, and he becomes He-Man in front of Teela, which had no idea who He-Man was. In this battle, Skeletor and He-Man both end up perishing. So what a crazy beginning. Right in the very first episode, He-Man gone, Skeletor gone. So then you're thinking to yourself, then why the hell am I gonna watch the show? I didn't think of that, honestly. I just wanted to keep watching. So I did. The second episode is really centered around Teela, and if you had no idea that she was gonna become the main character of the show, this episode leaves no stone unturned. It gets right onto it. You really see Teela, and that some time has passed. And she has built a resentment towards magic and everything that has to do with Eternia. She left Eternia, and she went on to make her own journey. She has a traveling companion called Andra, and then both of them, they get in some trouble here and there, and they do some missions here and there. And eventually, Teela finds out that Eternia is dying due to the Sword of Power being no more. The Sword of Power broke into two pieces. One stayed in Eternia, and then one went to Subternia. And with the sword, with the sword in pieces, magic can no longer thrive in Eternia, and that is also causing some magical beings within Eternia to die, lose their powers, and eventually succumb to this lack of magic in the air that powers them. I mean, some of these are mages and mystical beings, and without magic, they can't survive. Eventually, Teela comes to find out that she could restore the magic in Eternia and the health of her friends if she just puts the Sword of Power back, brings it back to Eternia, and just restores the peace, restores the balance within Eternia. To do that, she has to go to Subternia, and that's no easy task. That's no easy feat. So within this journey, she has to align herself with people that she used to call enemies. Her and her old enemies just join forces to a greater cause, because some of those enemies as well are also losing their powers because magic is gone. So they go on to this journey, and along the way, they are able to recruit some of the big characters that you see from the original show. You get to see Roboto back. And he's a huge part, especially towards the end of these very first 5 episodes. Once in Subternia, they come across one of the characters that a lot of people were looking forward to seeing, which is Scareglow, and he looks amazing. And here he makes their worst fears come to life. The group gets split up, and they have to fight their worst fears in order to come out of these illusions, while Teela is left alone to face Scareglow. Why can't I say Scareglow? Jesus Christ. But during that battle is when Teela really comes to grips with who she really is and what she can become and the things that she can do if she just embraces herself and embraces who she really is. And then thanks to Scareglow, and no, this is not in a good way by any means, but the rest of the group themselves also break out of their own illusions, face their own fears. And that eventually leads to a battle between the group and Scareglow that unfortunately not everyone makes out alive. But enough of bad news. After the battle with Scareglow, the dust settles and they see the portal that leads up to Pretoria. And there, not only do they find Prince Adam and all of the other champions that were champions before, even some of the lore from the very first time the series aired, you also get to see Grayskull, and he is ginormous. Grayskull is a force to be reckoned with. No wonder he's arguably the most powerful, because he was the first. But during their time there, Teela and Adam get to have a much needed heart-to-heart conversation. They kind of make amends, and Teela tells Adam what the deal is, what the plan. They need to get the swords back together, forge them, because Eternia is dying. Remember how I said the Roboto was going to be huge into the reforging of the swords? That is a whole scene. I won't spoil it here, and it's something that I urge you to watch because it's really cool. The end result is that they have the sword back, but Adam is left with a decision, which I will not spoil that decision. And much like modern TV series, everything kind of has to end with a conflict, or everything has to end in a cliffhanger, and that's exactly what happens here. So this is a huge spoiler, so I'm giving you a huge spoiler alert. This is what happens at the very end of part 1. Again, if you haven't seen it, just beware. Once Adams reappears in Eternia with the sword, and he calls the power to restore the magic in Eternia, Skeletor, which was imprisoned within Evelyn's orb, he took shelter there for the blast of their first battle. He manifests himself. He stabs Adam in the back, which it made it believe that he died again, and he becomes the next champion. Skeletor calls the power. He grabs the sword of power. He says, I have the power. And he has finally everything that he ever dreamed of. He becomes this immense, huge version of himself that is literally a giant. And he's got everything he needs to become the master of the universe. I think the show is much more than a sequel. I think it's a breath of fresh air into an old classic that is going to not only bring back old generations, but it's also going to create a new wave of fans. And it's going to be the bridge that gaps these generations together. Some of you that are watching this right now have kids that will be watching this with you, because this is a kid-friendly show. And you're gonna have if you're an early teen or even a kid watching this, your parent probably watched this when he was or she was your age. So this is certainly a show to bring generations together, bring the old champions and the new champions together into one great cause, which is bringing back a timeless classic that does not disappoint from beginning to end. I gotta give Masters of the Universe Part 1 a 9 out of 10 with a fire seal of approval, because this show is fire. The show's dope as hell. And I really hope you enjoy it. If you watched this review before you watched the series, please go on and watch the series. I left out some really important parts, especially the journey in between, which is very entertaining. There's some cool moments in there that you would not see and that you're not expecting, and I guarantee you that. Down below there'll be 2 videos, my latest video and a playlist that I want you guys to watch. And this playlist, I'm probably gonna link you guys to my Invincible playlist, which is my most popular. If you haven't watched Invincible, do yourself the favor and go watch Invincible. Please do that, especially if you're older. It's a great show. And also there'll be my latest video, which is my Loki series finale, a season finale reaction. And this is the last time you saw that intro and the end cards and the color scheme and the channel and the Facebook pages, because I am going to revamp everything for season 2. And the next time you're going to be watching this, it's going to be a brand new show. Can't wait for you guys to watch, and I'll see you on the next one.